you can do it. I just want to encourage all women. I'm a single mother. I have a 14-year-old boy. I'm doing the Women Making Waves stuff, and I'm fishing as a co-angler in the VFLs and the Opens, and I'm in grad school getting my master's in special education. If you feel you can't do it, I just want to encourage you. You can. You can.
Welcome to the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast, inspiring real women with a passion for fishing and the outdoors to go get their adventure on. Now, here's your fearless host, Angie Scott.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast. I'm sitting down with a Women Making Waves wave maker, Nicole Jacobs. Been following her for a long time on social media. She does amazing things for women in the fishing world. So happy to be chatting with Nicole today. Nicole, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Angie. I appreciate you thinking of me to be on your show. It's an honor to be here, and thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So we're down here at ICAST, and we're here with the Recreational Boating and Fishing Foundation and the whole Women Making Waves campaign. But before we get into that, I want to just kind of introduce our audience to you, where you're from, how you got into fishing. So if you'd fill us in on all that, that would be awesome.
Yes, so I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota, born and raised in actually a small town called St. Anthony Village, Minnesota. It's like northeast Minneapolis, so born and raised there, but I grew up fishing up in Ottertail County, Minnesota. Find your inner otter is their whole thing up there. I grew up with my dad fishing on Rush Lake, Ottertail. We had a big, beautiful cabin up there. It was always our time up there fishing for crappies, panfish. That was really a father bonding moment. We get up early and go, and he'd teach lessons not only about fishing, but just about God and family first. And that was just always our special time. So what got me into professional fishing was actually after some tragedy. He passed away in 2012. But it was just honored. I wanted to honor his life, and it fueled my whole career. And after some tragedy, I was in a rollover car accident right after he died, and some misfortune. I found my new church, Eagle Brook, which fueled my whole career after going on a mission trip to Nicaragua the year later. And God said, "You're going to be a role model in fishing to empower others to follow their passions through faith in fishing." So 6 months later after that, I started building a business plan, working with charity groups in Minnesota, doing youth fishing events and stuff, and then I started doing tournaments. Bass fishing is really my thing. I fall in love with the sport after doing some competitive tournaments, and then I did a Bassmaster Open in Douglas Lake, Tennessee in 2014, and didn't know what I was doing. I only had 2 rods through jigs because I knew I love jigs. But I got 14th place as a co-angler, and I know there's only me and a couple other women competing at the time, and I got 14th place out of 200 guys. And then 6 months later, out of the blue, God blessed me with a beautiful phone call from FLW and Walmart saying I wanted to fish for their Walmart team. And so I was very fortunate to do that for 2 years on the FLW tour and launch a female fishing rod for women in Walmart stores and give back to the communities in my church through some of my royalties, and so which led me to here, and God's really blessed me with that. I'm very much about bringing people to Christ in fishing, but what's important is that it has led me to bringing women to fishing, which has been really important to me. I work in education also alongside my fishing career, and I'm about equity for the sport of fishing and inclusion. I also work in special education, so it's really important for us. And then when Take Me Fishing reached out, it was just a perfect parallel to my career.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about the whole Take Me Fishing, Women Making Waves initiative. I was first introduced to it, I guess, 2 years ago, maybe early on when, I started this podcast and I saw that they had this awesome, Women Making Waves. I had Rachel Piacenza from RBFF on the show to talk about that. And then I got to work with them 2 years ago at ICAST for the big, Women Making Waves event that they had here. And it's so cool to see all these ladies coming together and helping to promote getting more women involved. And that's what this show is all about. So like you said, perfect parallel for sure. So talk a little bit about your experience and your involvement with women making waves.
I was first introduced, just like you, 2 years ago at the show when they had the big, huge campaign, first launching the Women's Making Waves, how they had a bunch of, we're not afraid to rock the boat, the water's open. In my career, I have always stressed, when I fished for Walmart, I got to give a speech alongside Kevin Costner, which was absolutely terrifying at the Walmart Saturday morning meeting. I always say fish don't discriminate. People do, but fish don't. So it was very awesome to see Take Me Fishing come out and say, we're going to support these women. There's statistics proving that they said there's 38% of women in the industry, and we're going to support these women, but they're dropping out at alarming rates. So we're going to make an impact. And so I was introduced then, but then I got invited to go on their Miami Boat Show campaign last year. We got to go sail fishing, and it's just about, they choose different anglers like yourself and I to go, and they have like saltwater anglers. They've had someone like Badass who's from the North Pacific, or Snooki who's from Country Girl from Virginia, and they have different like Sid from Texas, different racial backgrounds, also different fishing backgrounds as well. We also had Sarah, who has never fished before, who's also just to say, like, we all are different anglers, and we all have different, whether we're avid, whether we're entry level, women, the sport is for everyone. And so that was really interesting. So it started at the Miami Boat Show. We got to go sail fishing and do some panel work and talk about fishing, talk about what's changing as well. But I think the most important message is women are 38% of the industry, but they're dropping out at alarming rates. Why is that? It's because companies are misrepresenting women in the sport. How I talk, this is just me talking, not Take Me Fishing, is that companies are using women as fashion accessories rather than authentic anglers, and vice versa. Some women are using fishing as fashion accessories, but we were challenged by Frank, the president here, to see how many companies on the floor at ICAST are really using women in their marketing campaigns, and there's not that many. It was less than 10, and that's kind of sad. So, but it's starting to get a ripple effect. So, women make up 38%, but we have new statistics last year that female anglers are at an all-time high. Women participated in fishing at a 10% increase last year during COVID. That's insane. 19.7 million female anglers participated in fishing in 2020, Angie. Wow. Isn't that insane?
That is incredible.
Another thing is single moms and moms are taking their kids fishing, but they just don't know, and they're not educated enough. So this is why Women Making Waves like ourselves are here to educate. And we need to get that new angler retention. And a lot of these companies are gearing towards avid anglers or anglers that are already fishing. So not only are we trying to hit women, we're trying to reach new angler retention.
Awesome. Yeah, that's so important, and I love that we have support from a big organization like the Recreational Boating and Fishing Foundation, that they've recognized this and put a specific focus on it. And I also love that it's not just about women, but you mentioned it's also about diversity, which is super important. They have the whole, what do they call the Vamos Pescar?
Yeah, is that Vamos Pescar. Yeah, it's for, the Latino culture. There's also statistics on that. Like, not only are moms playing a critical role, but there's different diverse cultures. Like 7 in 10 Americans believe, community is more diverse than ever, and it's true. Fishing participation in the U.S. grew 18% in diverse cultures. The statistics from Take Me Fishing is 3.7 million African American participation grew in the last 10 years. 4.4% in Hispanic. And then, like we said, women is at an all-time high. So there's something to be said there. And fishing has been predominantly a white male sport. So that's not the case anymore, and companies need to recognize that and get on board and reach that new angler retention, and especially with the women.
Absolutely. So I want to talk about, you got to go on a pretty cool little mini trip here.
Yeah, we missed you.
You've been down I wish we could have gone, but talk a little bit about, it's life. We're in crazy times right now. So, but anyways, talk a little bit about that experience. What was that like?
Yeah, so this week for Take Me Fishing's Women Making Wave excursion, we got to come in and go on a fishing excursion and glamping trip. So I've never heard of glamping in my entire life. So, but I could do this. You know. I like to camp too, but this was like high-end camping. So first we got to go fishing in the Harris Chain. We got to go through the Dora Canal, which is very gorgeous.
Beautiful.
And then,
did you know that was in the movie The African Queen?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so they used the Dora Canal as a setting in that, like, it's a legendary old movie, but they had filmed part of that movie in the Dora Canal. So I got to fish there back in January with St. Croix rods, and that was my first time being there. And so I did some research, and I saw that was part of that movie. And I was like, that's so cool.
Absolutely stunning and just beautiful. Like, we saw some gators and stuff, and the girls are excited. You know, I'm professional in bass, so we got to bass fish, and what was cool is to see everybody's different level, and we got to fish brush piles. We did have one guide on there.
From billion-dollar ad budgets and arena naming rights to tens of thousands of retail locations, big wireless providers spend big to appear like they're your only option. How do they afford it all? That big bill you get at the end of every month. Mint Mobile had a different idea. Instead of brick and mortar overhead, Mint Mobile is online only. What does that mean for you? A whole lot of savings, because wireless plans from Mint Mobile start at just $15 a month. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for just $15 a month. You'll save enough that you can get a brand new rod and reel for the upcoming season. For anyone who just hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. All plans come with unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan, and you can even keep your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. By going online only and eliminating traditional costs of retail, Mint Mobile passes significant savings on to you. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That's mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
And I caught 2 bass right away, and I felt, I kind of guilty. So I put the rods down and just started to help teach. But that's something I absolutely love to do, and that's what it's about. It's not just about fishing. Women Making Waves isn't just about fishing. It's about the sisterhood. It's about female community. So it's about having that empowerment. It's about, when I see you, I can mention your name in a room when you're not there and say, oh, I know a lady that you'd be great for her show. Or Bad Ash is a salmon angler, or she does this. I know I can recommend her. That's what it's about, building up each other, not tearing each other down, and being in a room full of each other. And like me and Snooky, for example, stole a golf cart one night. So we glamped. So glamping, I'll get to that other story, but glamping is, so after we fished the Harris Chain, so we all got together and I taught some of the girls how to fish. We tried to a bunch of the girls did catch some bass, and then we got to go to glamping at this Westgate, I believe, big ranch. Had a bunch of wildlife all over the place. You could do a bunch of different activities. We got there late, so a lot of the activities were shut down, but they had archery and a pool and like some other fun stuff. But because it was so late, because we had a little technical difficulty problems with our bus, it's a story. It's like, makes it fun.
That's what makes memories.
Right.
Yeah.
It's about catching memories is what I say. The hubcap flew off our bus. But that's what makes it an adventure. Anyway, but yeah, so we got there and some of the stuff was done, but we went to try fish in the pond and whatever. We didn't catch fish, so we sat around the campfire, we ate, we shared stories, and that was fun. And then, we had a mom there, and it's just beautiful because she was breastfeeding, so she had to go do her thing and pump, and that's what it's about. We all have our different stories, and then me and Snooki and 2 other girls, we stole the golf cart at night, and we just went around and looked for wildlife, and we found some mud piles and stuff like that, and took it out. We ended up finding wild boars. We saw some deer, and we found buffalo, and like, that's what it's about. And we're laughing and building community, and like, you don't forget that stuff. And then the tents, let me tell you about glamping tents. This is like a resort inside a beautiful tent. We had air conditioning. I slept like a baby. The bed in that tent was, or that glamping tent was better than the bed in my hotel right now.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, did you guys get like a lot of video and photos and stuff?
We did. So everything's been on our Instagram pages.
Okay.
We have some other pictures, and everyone has their own storyline. So us as ambassadors, there was a lot of different influences there. Have different things to bring to the table, so there'll be different things to be put out. And then we all got to come here, and then we met you, and then we all got to be a part of the event at the Shimano booth. So.
Yep. And that was great. I mean, it was just so cool to see, for me having this podcast, like half the ladies there I've had on the show, and there's still way more ladies that I still need to connect with and feature and share their stories and put it out there. But it was just so cool to see. I mean, it's such a great feeling to be a part of this,
And the thing is Angie, it doesn't stop here. The whole thing about women making waves, it's a ripple effect. And what's happening and what's funny about this is that when I've met with my sponsors this week, it has been the same message and ripple effect. I've had sponsors come up to me as like, they're noticing what we're doing.
Yep.
They're getting on board. And the ones that haven't just haven't gotten there yet. That means they're not going to. It's just that they're starting to understand. My biggest question to my companies now are, what are you doing about diversity, equity, and inclusion? Are you hiring equity specialists? I asked that to Take Me Fishing. They actually are. There's another company here. I straight up asked because they wanted to work with me. It's a new company. I said, what are you doing for that? And they said, we have an HR lady here doing that. I said, that's impressive. That's impressive.
Yeah.
Like, that's just, wow. I think the bass fishing industry has a long way to go, but I have faith. Think there's things moving in the right direction. Some companies are slower than others, but there's definitely paving the way for others. So it's not just about bass fishing for me. Obviously, I've been pigeonholed. I've been discriminated against. I'm not going to sit here and lie. And then when I speak out about this women's stuff, I get called a feminist. The latest one was, I got called the Colin Kaepernick of bass fishing. But you know what? I know I'm doing something right.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially in this crazy time we're in. I mean, we've had so many events recently, you being, of course, from Minnesota. It's been a pretty tumultuous time. Is that the word?
Right. But you know what? For me, that was just the most eye-opening, humbling. For me, I lived in Minneapolis, and that was the most eye-opening experience for me, and it really humbled my heart, especially me being in education. I work in predominantly diverse schools, and I went down there after all that stuff happened in Minneapolis, and it was the media does not portray what really happens, and so for me to make peace with that situation and know that it was very peaceful down there, like, it was just very nice to see that there is love in this world. And it's not everything is what is portrayed on social media and the media, so we need to remind ourselves to do that,
Yeah, that's so great, and it's good to hear because, you're right. Like, I'm down in Nashville. I'm originally from Minnesota, so seeing all this was, hitting pretty close to home for me. And I had to turn off the TV. I'm like, I can't watch this, but to know that what we saw and what was actually going on was, it's good to see the positivity out there.
I think the biggest thing moving forward in the fishing industry and outside and even with the messaging, is the water's open to everyone. The number one thing behind it to really move forward is to use love and compassion and empathy, not to use pride and ego. And I feel like there's a lot of pride and ego in the sport of fishing, but that's a lot of, and I think I just got humbled with that situation in Minneapolis, and it humbled my spirit. And so, and it crossed over into the fishing world. So for me, And then COVID happened too. So I just think it was a good reset for everyone. I think, I just think if we choose to listen more to each other, and if these companies choose to just truly listen, and I think a lot of them are now, that we're just sticking up for, we're making waves, you know?
Absolutely. Things are happening, and that's what it's all about. And I did want to mention, when you guys were doing that glamping trip, Debbie Hansen, Gabriella McGrath, and myself, we did a little kayaking excursion here locally in the Orlando area. And then yesterday, thanks to RBFF, we got to go out and fish the Disney chain for a couple hours, which was so much fun. And what was cool about that, you talk about, you put down the rod to help teach others. What was cool with us, we only had 2 hours out there, so it was a very limited amount of time. We were all super jazzed because we know there's huge bass to be caught in the Disney chain. Like, there's opportunities for 10, 14-pound bass, and we were catching fish. But what was so cool is that we would put down the rods to get video or photos while, like Gabriella had a fish or I had a fish, she was taking pictures, and it was so cool that, we were more excited for each other,
And teamwork makes the dream work,
That's
right?
exactly
It's not
it.
about being jealous for one another. It's about being happy for one another.
Yeah.
Like I taught Bruna, who's never thrown a bait caster in her life, like how to throw it. And she's like, I'm like, you're going to get a bird's nest. I'm like, what's that? She goes, I go, where's my bird's nest? And she goes, she thought literally she was going to catch a bird's nest. She's from Brazil, know, so,
that's
funny. But like, that was so cool to watch her throw that.
Very
and
cool.
just,
I think probably for the majority of us, we're just as happy for somebody else to catch a nice fish as we would be for ourselves.
Yeah. And again, I think this message get back to some of us, forget, so I think sometimes the industry, at least in bass fishing, there's a scarcity complex that only one woman can succeed. It's just not true. We need to stop pretending that's the case. And we need to just remember, the water's open for everyone, and women, we can rise together and empower each other together.
Yep. And one of the messages of the show has always been, we're better together. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to take that a step further and say there's room for everyone.
Yes.
That's a conversation I've had this week. I mean, you could be the foremost expert on a certain type of fly cast or something, and somebody else could be an expert on that exact same thing, and there's still room for both of you.
Right, and I get that question a lot with new anglers. They're like, I don't feel I have a place here, and I was like, everyone has a place here.
Yeah.
It's just don't ever feel you don't. They get it in, they get discouraged. I said we've all been discouraged. How many times I've cried this week? I think we forget to allow ourselves to be human, and there is something to be said about being a woman in the industry. I think we are held to different standards sometimes, so we put extra pressure on ourselves. So we just need to allow ourselves to be human and fail. It's okay to fail. That's how we learn.
Yep. And we just all have something unique to contribute.
Right.
And we're here for a reason.
And another very valid point I want to make is I've screwed up before with women on social media and having conversations, and I've had conversations go completely south and my words get misconstrued and twisted. We need to have real-time conversations like this, owning our words in public, owning our words, and I'll own my words today. So if there's anything that's upsetting, I want people to come to me and DM me or just reach out to me. That's something I'm really trying to own, is if I upset someone or if anything, just to come to me. We need to stop hiding behind the screens and stop victim shaming or victim blaming or even playing the victim, and having real-time conversations, because a lot of stuff just gets garbaged and muddied because of that, and it doesn't need to happen.
Right. Well, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because that is something that happens a lot on social media, and that's an important thing to address. So thank you for mentioning that. And is there anything you want to talk about, what you got coming up or anything before we sign off?
This is my crazy 2 weeks. No, I just want to encourage everyone out there. I am going to fish the Bassmaster Opens on Oneida, so
nice, good luck.
you can do it. I just want to encourage all women. I'm a single mother. I have a 14-year-old boy. I'm doing the women making wave stuff, and I'm fishing as a co-angler in the BFLs and the Opens. happens. And I'm in grad school getting my master's in special education. If you feel you can't do it, I just want to encourage you. You can. You can. And all you need, personally, in my opinion, is God, grace, and grit. And just be humble and be gentle with yourself and be kind to others, and you will do it.
Awesome. Yes, love yourself. That's so important. And thank you so much for taking time.
Thank you for having me, Angie. It's been so good to meet you, and take care.
Yeah, and I look forward to hopefully hanging with you in Miami.
Yes,
the Miami Boat Show.
Hopefully I can do an LBAA one of these days.
Yeah,
so.
that would be great. We'd love to have you.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
Angie.